3-point plan for the Jets. Puma, who you got? What you got going on there?
I mean, the blatantly obvious, the quarterback. Now, whether or not it's a dude that came out of a cave slash, Lincoln log house with like no light in a bathroom, but he decided to wear a diaper and, tripping on ayahuasca last year. Or they go with Mr. Squeaky Clean and Mr. Team Guy and Derek Carr. They have to address the quarterback position because, Zach Wilson clearly is not it. Mike White is, Mr. Glass per se. Like, he hasn't been able to get, this job by, fully in grasp because he's been hurt, whether or not it's in that Colts game or whether or not he's taking brutal body shots in Buffalo, which, I mean, I commend him for that performance because, I mean, he was taking body blow after body blow. And I thought he pulled a Chris Sims and had a ruptured spleen. And he still gutted it out in that game. But his frame is just not built for the NFL. They have to figure out the quarterback position. And, real quick, in case you want to jump in, I'm going to go with the offensive line as well, too, because who knows what's going to happen with Mekhi Becton. Like, on paper, that was a great draft pick coming out of Louisville, a big mammoth of a man that has, light feet and can move people at ease. But the problem is he's been nagged by shoulder injuries, and he was also kind of an unhappy camper last year. He wanted to get a contract extension, but the team was kind of waiting it out. And in my opinion, the team was rightfully so in the decision to wait it out because I think he got hurt like within the first 3 weeks of the season. He wasn't to be found again. So they're definitely going to have to address the offensive line position for sure. I feel like let me rephrase. If they don't mortgage their draft picks for Aaron Rodgers, I think they're going to go in the draft for an offensive lineman.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm there with you as well. The first 2 points I have is basically quarterback related. So the first one is you got to sign a legit quarterback, right? Whether it's Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, etc. Now, I've been hearing some stupid things. I've been hearing that the Jets are sniffing around Geno Smith. If they can't land Rodgers or Derek Carr, I've heard they're getting so desperate that they would even consider luring Daniel Jones away from the New York Giants. Like, I will send you this report later on today, but it's seeming
who's breaking that?
I forgot who it was. I saw this the other day, and I was like, okay, this is insane. But it's one of those things where like the Jets are hell bent on getting a quarterback that is not from the draft, right? So they're obviously going to go after Aaron Rodgers first. And obviously, they're going to go after Derek Carr. If that doesn't happen, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think they got to be smart here and not be the Jets. Like, you can't start going down the road of trying to bring back like Geno Smith. You know what I can see it can happen? I can totally see this happening. I can see somehow somebody like a Baker Mayfield ends up with the Jets. I can see the Jets not getting who they wanted. And next thing you know, they're like, all right, let's just give $10 million to Baker Mayfield. Let's get him in here and let's throw him out there and see what happens. And if that's the case, bro, like that's going to be a train wreck. Absolute train wreck.
Well, if that's the case, you might as well stick with Mike White. Like,
yeah,
you put 2 flak jackets on Mike and go under center but like if you're gonna go the Baker Mayfield route, and I understand like for a cup of coffee he looked good with the Rams on that short Thursday night football game against the Raiders, and then in the playoff, not the playoff game because they weren't in the playoffs, but like that overtime game against the Seattle Seahawks until he chucked up that friggin' interception at the end of the game in overtime. But like, yeah, he looked good like for a cup of coffee. So has Mike White, and Mike White will be cheaper.
Yep. Well, I'm just starting to put 2 and 2 together here that it seems that Derek Carr still wants to go out there and look at what other teams have to offer, right? He's looking for $35 million a year. I'm looking at the fact that maybe Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to go to the Jets. Like, I feel like that's kind of like died down a little bit. It's still there, but I thought we'd hear more about it by now. So I just feel somehow the Jets are going to Jets this up. They're going to totally cock this up, right? And they're going to end up with a Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, like some sort of like weird starting quarterback situation. Now, the second point of my 3-point plan, Puma, is I think they should draft Tanner McKee at pick number 13.
Okay.
I know it goes against, what we talked about. They have a loaded now roster. They basically can't wait 2 or 3 years to develop. I'm saying take take a quarterback high if you got one of those guys coming in like a Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers, because you do have to eventually develop somebody. Like Zach Wilson isn't the guy. We all know that. Tanner McKee, quarterback from Stanford, quarterback 5 on most big boards. He's well equipped to run the NFL offenses. He's very smart, bright kid, big body. He's a typical like Andrew Luck, like who's that kid with the long neck, Davis Mills type of Stanford quarterback. You feel me? Like that's the type of quarterback he is. So my first 2 points revolve around the quarterbacks. Got
it. And then for the third, I mean, they already hired an offensive coordinator. So this roster, like on paper, is already stacked. So like it's really just like the quarterback position, the offensive line. But like for argument's sake, like let's say Nathaniel Hackett is, in the words of, you cocking it up as the offensive coordinator, like they gotta have somebody else like in that building that could take over the offensive play calling duties, because I mean, if that's the case, I mean, the New York media is gonna eat them alive. But I guess like, kind of an honorable mention for like a check mark for the 3-point plan would be maybe the running back position. Like, Breece Hall's coming off that knee injury, going to take a full year to actually get back to being himself. Like, there's Michael Carter and Zonovan Knight. Those guys did great filling in. Does Woody Johnson want to spend like a drunken sailor and bring in Saquon Barkley for like a playoff push? Like, who knows? But that's kind of like the light end of like the 3-point plan.
Yeah, and my last point was I think you've got to re-sign Quinnen Williams. Like he seems to be indicating he might not practice without a new contract. I mean, those some rumblings coming out. So I mean, he's key in that front 7. He's part of basically the dominant defense. So you've got to make sure he's happy. You got to somehow re-sign him, get him back on the practice field. Or if you want to look at the back end of this Jets defense, that's the one area they're a little weak on, is that Joyner Whitehead safety combo. It's not working out. Like it looks like both those guys are the weak link of that offense. And if I had to guess, Joe Douglas is probably going to try to retool that via either free agency or the draft.